Performing small tasks actually has a lot more of an impact than you might realise. And I think one of the biggest small tasks anybody can do is to clean their room. It might not seem like much, but you are actually doing a lot more for yourself than you realise. I actually want to cover a few things and a few little topics that I think that deviate from this whole clean your room argument, which was actually made by Jordan Peterson. But I'll come back to the actual quote later on. Cleaning your room can actually be seen as setting up your environment for success. And I'm not necessarily talking about these grandiose, crazy routines these millionaires have or claim to have as they put on YouTube, but just simple things. Making things a bit easier for yourself. Setting yourself up for the day. What do I mean by that? Well, maybe you're an absolute sucker for sitting in bed a lot longer than you need to when you wake up in the morning. But that is because when your alarm goes off, your phone is right within your reach. But if you was to move it to the other side of the room, you'd force yourself to get up. And there's a high chance, you might still check it, might go on it for a minute, but there's a less of a chance you're going to go get it, then get back in your bed to then sit and scroll on it. You're more than likely going to check it, put it down, and then get on with your morning. And you can make a lot of small adjustments by cleaning your room, aka setting up your environment for success, in any way that you see fit, really. Maybe you told yourself that you're going to take vitamins, but you forget majority of the days. So put them next to your bed, on a bedside table, on a windowsill near you, on your desk, somewhere where they are within reach and within vision. Because when they're right there, you're going to remember and you're going to go and do it. On the contrary thing to the phone, obviously one is setting yourself up so you get out of bed, you don't make yourself late, you don't sit in longer than you need to. The vitamins things is making it easier for yourself to set yourself up, to do something positive for yourself. And like I mentioned, you can cater this however you want. By cleaning your room, you do a positive task, something meaningful for you. And it's never a bad thing to do something for yourself, because at the end of the day, why would you want to make your own days more difficult? If you have an opportunity to improve on something for yourself, then why not do it? And I think that doing simple things like cleaning your room or changing things around so it's easy for yourself is a very good start before jumping on and getting to the bigger things and more complex things and things that require a lot more thought and attention and planning, because you always have to start somewhere. So when you stick to it for a certain amount of time, it'll just become easy and it'll just become something that you just get on with and not even have to think about. I suppose you can also think of it this way. The easier the task, the easier it will be for it to form a habit. Jordan Peterson said that if you can't even clean up your own room, then who the hell are you to give advice to the world? And I agree with that on a lot of different levels, because the truth is, you need to take care of your own immediate environment, which is what you're surrounded with, your house, your room, your own headspace. All those things need to be in order before you can help or advise other people. Because I don't believe it necessarily means, well, if you don't do this or that, you obviously can't have an opinion. I don't think that's where it's coming from. I think it's more of a matter of you need to take care of yourself first, in a good way. Because if you're not feeling very good, if you're not feeling well in yourself, physically, mentally, but you try to help other people, you're just going to burn yourself out. And you don't want that. You do not want to put more unnecessary stress on yourself. And yes, you might be a good person and you might want to help and you will want to prioritize other people over yourself. At times that's the case. Sometimes it happens. But you can't do it all the time. You can't do it forever, especially when you're not feeling very good. You won't be able to enjoy or progress or do things the way you want to if you haven't looked after yourself first. Because you can only really give one true 100% of yourself to something when you feel at your 100%. Of course, some days you just don't feel like doing something. You are exhausted, tired, physically, mentally, whatever it may be, but you still do it anyway. And obviously you can't give you 100%, but you give 100% of what you can. And that's still good, but it's not very sustainable. And over the long run, and the longer you let it happen, the worse it gets and the worse it hits you when it actually does hit you. In the first point, we mentioned how the easier the task is, the easier it is to form into a habit. And I want you to think about that for a second, because these habits that you're forming by doing small, meaningful steps will only do good. They will only assist in elevating your life or your mental well-being or your physical well-being, because habits and micro habits, the small little steps we take every single day, compound over time. Because if you try and tackle something and you decide to spend 4 or 5 hours on it, I guarantee you won't be able to stay focused for the entire 4 to 5 hours. You will have moments where you drift off, you get bored, or maybe just a full-on cut-off point, and after 2.5 hours, you're, instead of giving it 100%, now you're giving it 80%, and they're just slowly trickling down, and then the last 3 hours just weren't really that very efficient. So that's why I believe doing things in small sections, small little segments, consistently, often, is much better than doing things in large portions and blocks at a time. Because you might think that the task itself is difficult, which can be true in some cases, but no matter how easy or difficult the task is, the hardest part is the beginning, the start itself. Because once you start, that's it, you're onto a winner. Because whether you get only a little bit done, or a lot of it done, or maybe the whole thing, you started. And that is the most important thing. Making the start is what's going to form all these positive changes and habits. I know I spoke about doing things consistently or every day in small chunks, and as much as that's ideal, it's not actually possible. Not all the time. Even the most disciplined people can't do something every single day because of certain circumstances. Something happened, they are literally on an aeroplane, their car has crashed. Things in life just happen, and there's nothing we can do about that. What we can do is, through discipline, obviously today's not the day, but tomorrow is. Because it's really easy to say no to yourself once you've said no to yourself once. On the contrary, sometimes the environment and what's happening is perfect. There's nothing to say that we can't do this today, but we just don't want to. Because we don't feel like it. Because we're too tired. Because this, that, or the other. That's something that we choose. But I hope that through developing this discipline, through these habits, will allow you and teach you to do things even when you don't want to do them. No matter how much, no matter how long for, but just getting something done. Because, like mentioned, the start is the hardest. But once you make a start, smooth sailing from there. I believe this entire concept can go full circle and come back to the fact that all of these things teach you to solve problems there and then, rather than putting them off to the side or recycling them. Because when you put things off to the side or recycle these problems, and I'm saying recycle because it's like they are recurring, they happen over and over again. For example, when you need to take your vitamins but you choose not to because you haven't set your environment up for success, you recycle the problem of never taking them. And that's entirely by choice. The more you are able to say yes to fixing problems immediately, the better. Obviously, sometimes you can't, sometimes things have to wait, or sometimes things can only be fixed through time. Understandable? However, there are going to be a lot of things you can do and fix yourself almost immediately. I want you to focus on them. I want you to focus on the things you can fix immediately, or under 5 to 10 minutes. Because if you can do them that fast, without anybody's help, without having to go and get something, you just go and do it. Fix it, change it, whatever. If you can do it quickly, do it now. Do not put it off, because through fixing these different problems, you are going to be strengthening your habits. You are going to be making your dedication and discipline that much stronger, that much better, and everything else will just automatically follow. Because then cleaning your room or setting up your environment for success will just come naturally. You won't no longer have to think about it. You will just do it. Because truth be told, a lot of problems in our life right now can actually be fixed by ourselves pretty quickly. Thank you very much for tuning into today's video. I hope you liked it, and if you did, I would really appreciate it if you leave a like, and if you're new here, if you could subscribe, that would mean the absolute world to me. Based on the topic from today's video, you might be interested in last week's video, which was titled What Happens When You Grow. And, well, when you start taking all the steps we've covered today, you will grow as a person. So I think that might be relevant to you. And as always, thank you, and I'll see you next week.